Hi, I'm Scott Marsh. I am the head football coach at Roncalli High School on the south side of Indianapolis, and Roncalli is a Catholic high school of about 1,100 students. Great football tradition. We are 9-time state champions, and I'm very honored to be presenting here today. I'm going to be talking today about our odd stack 3-3 defense. For me personally, this is the 18th season for me as a coach that I've implemented at least pieces of an odd stack defense, and this season will be the 16th year that this has been our base defense. So we've been doing it for a long time, and we've changed bits and pieces of it here and there, but largely since about 2002, it's stayed largely intact. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to go into today is going to be how we're going to set the front. We do things a little bit unique. Again, we want to be simple with our kids and get lined up fast. So our front, we're obviously an odd front. What we do, it's a little bit different, is we have a left and a right side to our front six. We do not play with a Sam and a Will. We will do that sometimes in some package defense that we do in different downs and distance and situation. But from our base personnel, we just go a left and a right side. So we have a left end, a right end, obviously a nose tackle, and our linebackers and our base personnel are titled Lou, Mike, and Rob, so a left and a right linebacker. Now, that changes when we get into the secondary. We're a 5-spoke secondary, so we do play with 3 safeties. Our safeties will rotate based on formational strength. And one of the things that we do that I really like is our front and the back end, our secondary, and those rotations really kind of work independently of one another. It all fits in together with the run fits, but realistically, the calls and the alignments, really, they're working independently of one another. Our base coverage, which I'm going to go into today, which is our install coverage, is a cover 4. We're a base cover 4. We're what I call a tight match cover 4, and I love cover 4 because of the flexibility that it provides for you defensively. Very much man coverage principles. And so when we teach our quarter scheme early in the summer to our kids, we teach it in very much a tight, constricted fashion. And that's primarily what we're going to be in on first and second downs. And then our philosophy is try to get to third down, and then we do a lot of different package things with 5 and 6 DBs once we get to third down. Just kind of a basic look at a front that we might use. This is our first day install 4-man pressure. We're a 4-man pressure team. Although we are a 3-3 team, we went 0 snaps this past season with a 3-man pressure. We are always in a 4 or more man pressure. So we consider, even though we're pressuring a 4th guy from the second level, we consider that to be a front. So this is our first front that we put in on day 1. We call it bullet. And even though we don't play with a traditional 3 technique, we don't have a 3 technique, we do in our among our staff and with our kids, we talk about closing off the B gap. So although we're not doing it with a 3 technique, we are going to be doing it through pressure. Okay, so we obsess about where we're going to close the 3 technique off at. In any kind of a 1-back set, the rules for our Mike linebacker is going to call a rip Liz call, all right? So either obviously right or left. And we're going to set that closed B gap based on first and foremost offset back. If there is no offset back, like say we get pistol or I formation or something like that, then we're going to go to the tight end and then obviously formation or field. So we have a couple of different ways where we could close off this B gap. Just a couple of basic ways, like bullet here is our first day install. This is the same fashion, but now we're doing it with a C gap pressure from the second level rather than a B gap. Obviously in the odd stack, one of the things that happens is anytime you get more than one person moving, for instance, a C gap pressure here, which we call crush, is a 2-man movement among the defensive linemen. So obviously the complexities gets a little bit the chance for mistake there once in a while can happen. Anytime that you add more movement with your defensive line. So those are 2 very simple ways against 1-back sets that we will close off the B gap, which is like we said in an odd front and an even front, is very similar to setting the 3 technique. So for us, if you're looking at our structure here, left end, right end, a nose. Here's our Lou, our Mike linebacker, our Rob. We'll talk about safety rotation here in just a second, but this would be our strong safety, and our terminology is a stud. and 30 here is our free safety. So it's a one back set with the back offset right. So our Rob linebacker, we would have a rip call, and so we would probably either be pressuring somewhere, either here or bringing him off of that edge and then sinking that defensive end inside to the B gap. For our nose tackle, his rules are very, very simple. He's always going opposite the rip Liz. He's always going opposite the rip Liz. So if we were to get, just say, a one-back zone scheme here among our front six, our Mike linebacker's run responsibility, he's always going to fit the A gap to the rip Liz. And in this case, so he would have the right A gap. And in this case, our Lou linebacker is going to have the B gap. So he's going to be B gap responsible. So we just gap everything out and fit it out across the board on any kind of a zone scheme. When we get to gap scheme, it gets a little bit trickier, but we'll talk about that here a little bit later. Now, when we get into two-back offenses, when we set our front versus two-back offenses, same concept. So if we get an I formation here, we're still going to close the B gap off, in this case to the tight end, since there is no offset back. But this is where we're really less like a 3-3 defense and more like a 4-2-5 really at this point. Since there are two backs in the backfield, we're going to bring an extra safety down into the run fit. So we're going to bring an extra safety into the box who's not occupied by coverage now that there's two backs. And because of that, we're going to bump our linebackers. So we're going to unstack the two linebackers who are not pressure backers. So in this case, our Mike and our Rob will bump with a Liz call to the tight end here. We will bump. We always say to those guys, our terminology, we say bump, rip, Liz. And we're going to actually put those two other inside linebackers in 30. So we're going to play versus two back sets. We're going to play with two 30 inside linebackers, which is a little bit different than what a lot of odd stack defenses do. But again, we're kind of keeping even front principles out of an odd front, which allows us, I think it gives us some flexibility later on also when we do get in some package situations to be able to go from odd to even in a pretty simple fashion where the run fits don't really change much. Same thing, again, same concept. This would be a crush, exact same concept where we're closing the B gap off to the tight end here because there's no offset back, and we would just do it with a C gap pressure, and now again we're sinking the end inside. Again, the nose for us always goes opposite the rip Liz call, and this would be a Liz. So we would bump these linebackers to the Liz side. We can do it with the Mike out of two back. A little bit more flexibility from our four-man pressures out of two back sets than it is out of our one back set. So we can do it with the Mike. And again, these are things that aren't really, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just looking for different ways to really close that B gap off to the side that we want to fit it up. Now, to get to an under front, basically all of those were kind of an over front look where you get the three technique to the strength. To create an under front, we go with a different set of calls. So if bullet is really our over front call, then Brave and Cherokee here would be our under front call. Same concept, we're just closing off that B gap, but now we're going away from the tight end in this case to create more of an under look, closing off the B gap away from the tight end. We still do the same thing with the remaining inside linebackers. If you are not a pressure backer versus a two back set, you're still going to bump rip Liz. So in this case, when we get into our under looks, Brave, Cherokee, our Mike now is going to be bumping to the rip Liz call. In this case, it would be a rip, which might be away from the tight end. It all comes together when we teach the run fits, though, and I'll get to that here in just a few minutes. Mini would be the same thing. Again, setting an under front, but doing it with the Mike linebacker. So here's a pretty good look, I think, of us versus a two-back set. In this case, we have a rip call. So here's our 5. We have a nose. Here's our 5. Our Rob here is going to be with our rip call. He's going to be our pressure backer. Again, he could be coming in here to the B, or we could be sinking the end and bringing the Rob here through the C. But if you can see our two remaining backers who are not on the pressure, our Mike and our Lou, I think that's a pretty good shot of how they are in 30s here outside of the guard, and then our nose will be coming into that A gap opposite the rip Liz call. So the two backs, we change it. The fits change a little bit. Obviously, it gets a little bit more complicated with the fits as you add another back into the backfield. and you bring a safety down into the front as well. So we change the alignment. The fits will change as well. Now, to add those safeties into the run fit, specifically versus two backs, we will always rotate our safeties, whereas we do not change our front. We play with the left and the right side. Our safeties, our stud and our free safety will always travel together, and we will spin that safety rotation to the passing strength, okay? So we're going to make a Ringo or a Lucky call. So to set our front, we make a Rip Liz. To set our safety rotation, we're going to make a Ringo Lucky. And again, those are working really independently of one another. But that's going to get us lined up and get the gaps all squared away. So with this, in this case, with this being a two-back set and the passing strength obviously being here to the left, we're going to make a Lucky call to the two-by side. And now, for our weak safety, if he's to a one-by, we are automatically going to rock him down, squirrel him down there into a what we call a C5. From day one, we teach it as a C5, which puts him in there really tight, almost at linebacker depth, because we really want to reinforce those run fits on day one. So if he's to a one-by side, which he is here versus a two-by-one, we'll talk a little bit later. He's going to make a call to that corner. So that ISO corner, he's going to make a bonus call to him, and we'll get to that here in a little while, but that tells that corner that basically he's on his own. He's going to have help underneath, gives him the freedom to press, but it also tells him that he's essentially needs to consider himself to be by himself. We'll get a little bit of help underneath, but really we're going to squirrel that weak safety down now as a run player who's going to be an underneath dropper versus pass. If we get an attached tight end, we will play those two versus that one versus the pass, and he'll also tell us how we're fitting versus the run game as well. Okay, and again, I'll get to all that here in just a little while. So here's a good look at a Lucky call for us versus a two-back set. We're getting kind of a sniffer H here, but we do have a Lucky call, the two-by. Now the number 2 receiver is detached. It's 20 personnel. So when we get a detached number 2, our strong safety, our stud, is going to stay in the box, and our free safety is now going to leverage that number 2 receiver, play coverage first. So if you kind of look at our front here, we've got our 3 that don't change. We've made a rip call in our front. So here's our Rob linebacker about ready to pressure here off of this edge. It appears that he's probably going to be running a C-gap pressure right there, which means that we are going to be moving the line to the left with the rip call. Okay, we have our 2 inside linebackers in 30s, our Lou and our Mike, with the rip call. They're bumped Rip Liz, which would be rip. We have a one-by here to the right, so we've got a Lucky call. So at the one-by, our weak safety is now going to rock down, squirrel down into the front, and he'll have a primary run fit now. Our strong safety will also have a primary run fit there to the strength, and our free safety now with the number 2 detached is going to be out in coverage first. So really when you look at this, when you freeze it and look at that picture right there, it really looks almost like a 4-4 type of front, even though really we're an odd front team. Okay, but we're going to use those safeties and get those safeties down there nice and tight. If we get a tight end wing, so a 2-by-1 with a tight end wing, whether it's 21 personnel or if it's 12 personnel or 22 personnel, I'm sorry, we're going to always make this adjustment out of our base personnel package and out of our 4-match quarters coverage. The change of this, what we would do here is we would now, to set this front here with the tight end wing, our strong safety is going to play nice and tight on the inside eye of that wing there. So he's going to be a 9 technique, but we really are going to get him hard down in that D gap. We really don't change anything else about the front. We do change the coverage a bit. So our free safety and our corner are now going to banjo off of 1 and 2. So basically it turns into man coverage for us. The corner is going to take the first out. The free safety is going to take the first in. And so we'll banjo that off. One of the things we don't like doing is putting a hard D player down in that gap and then ask him to have a primary pass responsibility as well. So the only thing we'll do, what changes with him from a coverage standpoint, is we really want to set that front right there and really press vertical through that D gap, and then we'll just allow him the freedom to take the swing deep of 3 if it were to materialize a little bit later. Okay, so this, but we get the same thing back here to the 1-by side by squirreling that weak safety down, making a bonus call, and now he's going to have a primary run fit to the weak side. So that's how we change things versus a tight end wing, and that's almost exclusive. Anytime we get a tight end wing, that's almost 100% of the time we're going to give that look. So really we'll wind up with a 9, a 5, and really, if you want to look at it this way, a 3, 2 to the formational strength to that side. So really we want to make everything go wide right there and take away all those, really what we're trying to do is alleviate pressure off of those linebackers and allow them to run. Okay, so here's what we would look like versus a tight end wing. Now this is a 1-back set, but we're still getting a tight end wing here. This would be 12 personnel. So we're still getting a tight end wing right here. So you can see our strong safety, our stud, is really on the inside eye of that wing. So here would be the tight end, and the wing would be right here. So he's playing through the inside eye of that tight end, and here's our free safety. What's not in the picture here that you can't see would be the corner and an outside alignment outside that wing. When we get a nub formation, so still we're 2-by-1, 21 personnel, or 22 personnel. If we get a nub formation, a nub for us means that we're going to get a 1-by that's attached. Okay, the tight end is going to be attached to the 1-by side. We will simply swap responsibilities now between our weak safety and our corner. So in this case, the 2-by is to the right, so we're going to make a Ringo call. The tight end is to the left, so we would have a Liz call to set the front. So the front is set left, the coverage rotation with the free safety and our strong safety are set to the right. Our weak safety now with a nub tight end, there is no detached number 1. He's going to play 0-by-2 off of that nub tight end, and then we will move the corner into that alley, robber quarters concept right there inside that tight end. So that's how that kind of changes that structure right there to where the weak safety now will be the force player to the tight end. Unbalanced. Again, staying 2-by-1. If we do get an unbalanced, the call that we have for this is we really don't change a whole lot in terms of how we set the front or rotate the coverage. Versus any unbalanced, we're still going to stick with our front rules. So we do not. One thing we don't do versus unbalanced is I'm a big believer in we don't bump our front. We're going to set our front consistent with our rules. And the reason why we want to do that, we really want our linebackers and our D-line to play fast. This is going to be a run-heavy situation. We don't want those guys thinking too much about having to kick to certain techniques that they're not comfortable with. So we want those guys to not have to think a whole lot, just get lined up and play as fast as they possibly can. So we really change the look and the concept to make sure we don't get out leveraged to an unbalanced. We do it really with our safeties more than anything else. So we'll set the front the same. We would still have a Liz call. So this would be the concept here would be a crush for us, a C-gap pressure for the 4th guy. So we're closing off that B gap to the tight end. Okay, we've got a 3-by here, so we would set a lucky. We would set a lucky there, so that would be a Liz and a lucky. The front and the coverage are going to be set to the same side in this instance. Now, for our corner and our weak safety, if they get a by 0, there's nothing out there. We teach this early in the summer. It's one of the things we teach early on. The call that they're going to make is a boss call, B-O-S-S. The corner is immediately going to make a boss call, and we're going to echo that across the front. And what that boss call tells us is that we are going to go to a +1. So our Mike linebacker now, rather than be in a 30, is going to now walk outside. So we keep the front consistent. We still keep the Liz call on with the Lou linebacker. But now the Mike is going to walk out, and he's now going to be that force defender to the tight end side. Okay, so he's going to now be the person that's going to turn everything back in. He's going to be the guy that's really going to make sure that we don't get out leveraged versus the 3-by-0. Okay, our strong safety is going to walk back into a fist technique. Again, I'll talk about that later. It's a basic technique that we play with our safeties versus a detached 2 or 3. Our rob is going to go from a 30 to the right now to a 30 to the left, and we are still going to maintain a 30 on the backside. We're going to do it just with our weak safety. And we're going to bring the corner in, and now he will play essentially the overhang to that weak side. He would have, again, swing of 1 really now to that side, or anything out to the flat, first cross or something along those lines. But this just allows us to make sure that we stay in that front, consistent front structure that we teach from day one. We don't have to do a whole lot of extra teaching. We just make one extra call. We wind up in 30s, and we keep the front consistent. It allows our D-line to play fast, and we just change the fits a little bit on the backside, that's all. And we teach this from day one. So this is how we align to any unbalanced, happens to be some sort of 2-back. This is a good shot of this from a game. So this would be a boss call here. So this tight end would be the number 3 receiver right here. So what we're looking at is we would have a we would have a Liz call in this case. So our Lou linebacker is going to be closing off the B gap along with that end one way or another, either through a C gap pressure from the Lou or a B gap pressure from the Lou. Okay, it's going to essentially become the same thing. Our Mike linebacker is now going to go from a 30 to now an overhang position where he's going to become a force defender. Changes his run fit. He's now going to be, if we get option, he's going to be the pitch player, all those sorts of things that we associate with force defenders in this case. Our strong safety is going to walk back and be an alley defender versus the run. And we are still going to be, we'd like for him to be a little bit farther over here, more in a 30, okay, but he's going to kick it a little bit right there. There's our weak safety, and this is actually our corner right there to a by 0. So really what winds up happening is even when we get unbalanced, our front structure stays the same. It's different letters, different people in those spots, but really the structure of the front and the way we fit the gaps is not going to change one bit. We just bump it. Versus 1-back, when we get any type of 1-back set, and I'm going to go into a lot greater detail as we get into our coverage here in just a second, our base coverage. But our safety rotation versus 1-back is going to go again to the passing strength, so to a 2x2 set, whether it's 10 personnel or 11 personnel. If we get a 2x2, we are going to rotate that coverage to the back. The back's going to become, he's going to create number 3, and we're going to spin those safeties down to that back. So in this case, with the 2x2, the back set to the left, that's going to give us a lucky in terms of how we're going to set the coverage rotation. And again, we're still with the back set left. We've made a Liz call with the front as well. So we're closing off the B gap to the running back in this instance. Okay, so this slide is going to show us how we're going to spin the safeties to a 1-back set. In this case, the running back is set to our defensive right. It's 11 personnel, so we have a Y off H-back concept right here. So here are our safeties. We have, with the running back to the right, we've made a rip call, so our Rob linebacker is going to be our pressure backer here. We've made a Ringo call in the secondary, and so our free safety and our strong safety, our stud, are going to go to the right as well and play off of that number 2 receiver. Our weak safety now is coverage first because of obviously the nature of it being a 1-back set right here. So that's how we're going to spin our safeties versus a 1-back and versus a 2-back. That's how we set the front. And we try to keep that consistent in how we build our coverage and our run fits into that. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we are a cover 4, what I call a cover 4 match team. I'm a big believer in quarters coverage. We do want our quarters coverage to be very tight. We teach it from day one, very, very tight. Our idea is we want to squeeze out as much space underneath and force the ball to be thrown in lower percentage spots, which usually means in a vertical game. I also believe that by teaching a match tight cover 4, that it allows you, as you expand your package throughout the course of the season and build other package defenses, whether it be red zone, short yardage, what have you, it allows you to kind of keep those principles pretty consistent in terms of tightening down coverage. So our philosophy in 4-match is what we call green. That's our terminology for the coverage. We believe in a 9-man front. We want to, first and foremost, we want to make sure that we go into the season having built a defense that's going to be able to play 11-on-11 football. We want to give run fits to 9 guys, and we want to be able to defend the option. And part of that option game, I think anymore in this day and age, is being able to defend the RPO game as well. So I think quarters coverage is great for 11-on-11 because it does give you 9 guys into the fit and makes the option game and the quarterback run game very difficult. We try to eliminate read conflict with our underneath defenders. We tell guys, if you're an in-the-box defender, our run players are going to play run. If you're an out-of-the-box defender, our pass players are going to play pass. We always talk with the kids about don't serve 2 masters. We don't want them to have, we don't want our linebackers to have a primary run fit, but also have to take away something primarily in the passing game that's going to get us caught in run-pass conflict with the RPO game and things of that nature. So we want our run guys in the box to be really, really fast versus the run, and we want our pass players to not have to really worry so much about the run game, but to be pass-first players. We turn every receiver surface into a 2-by or 1-by. We do not talk in terms of trips. So when we get to a 3-by coverages, or coverage versus 3-by formations, we're always going to X out one of those 3 receivers. So we try to turn every 3-by surface into a 2-by, or every receiver surface really into a 2-by or a 1-by to make things a lot, so we compartmentalize it and make it a lot easier on our kids mentally. And then, like I've said before, we really teach a tight match squeeze concept with our safeties and with our quarters. We really want the ball to be thrown over our heads. From day one we teach, let's take away all the space underneath. Let's really challenge quick game. Let's challenge the intermediate routes, and let's force the offense on first down to put the ball in a tight position. And really that's what it comes down to is again, this is a coverage that we're going to run on normal downs. We're going to run this on 1st and 10s and things like that are those heavy run situations. And so we really want to make a team try to take a shot on first down, and hopefully we'll get into, with low percentage throws, we'll get into more of those 2nd and 10s. That we can kind of change our philosophy a bit and then get to 3rd down. Okay, our basic structure, which I've really covered, our safety rotation when we talked about setting the front with our 3-3. But to the 2-by side, so if we've got a 2-back set here, obviously with our front, we would be setting the front with our linebackers and our defensive line. With our safeties, this would be a lucky call for us to the 2-by side. So our strong safety and our free safety, which always travel together, are going to be set to the left. To the 2-by side, we're going to play 3 different techniques potentially. We're going to play a robber technique, which in our terminology is we call fist. We're going to play a 2-read technique, which in our terminology is read. And we're going to play a modified man technique with our corners based on what the safeties call them. So we've got to any 2-by, we've got 3 techniques that our kids could play. And back here to a 1-by, we really play just 2 techniques to a 1-by side. We'll play when we bring, like I showed earlier, when we bring that safety down into the fit, we'll play more of kind of a cover 3 look with him where he's running underneath of the comeback and would have first to the flat. And we'll play some hard 2 also, where we will change the fits between that safety and that corner to the 1-by side. So we're really playing just a couple techniques. And what's kind of, I think, interesting about how we do it, those are not called from the sidelines. Those are techniques that the safety is going to call among themselves, and starts with our free safety. He's going to communicate that among the other DBs based on what he sees. So we give our kids the freedom to play whatever technique they choose out of this. Okay, so out of this formation, we get a 2-by-2, 11 personnel, 2-by-2. The back is set to the left. So we've got a pro look here with an attached number 2, and the back is set left. So for us, this would be the lucky call. The back would dictate number 3. So we would spin our safeties to the 3 by side here. So we would have a lucky call. So we're going to get our strong safety and our free safety here to the left. To our Ringo lucky calls. When we get an attached number 2 like this tight end is right here, any attached number 2, our safety is going to tell all the coverage to that side that we are playing a fist, what we call a fist technique, which is a robber technique for us. We really believe in this to tight ends. Again, it's great versus the run. It adds that 9th guy down fast into the fit, into the box. And it's really good versus the quarterback run game option football. So a fist technique for us. When the free safety is going to tell the corner, hey, we're playing a fist. It tells that corner that he now has the freedom to press. So if our corner hears fist, he now has the freedom to press. So we can play a press quarters out of this based on whatever technique that the free safety tells him that they're going to play. So with an attached 2, we're going to play a fist technique, which tells this corner, I'm playing modified man. I've got all of 1 on everything except for the shallow cross that's under linebacker depth. Everything else, I'm playing all of 1. And we'll change that horizontal leverage, obviously, based on where number 1 aligns in relation to where the ball's at in relation to the field. But he's going to have all of 1 way or another minus the shallow cross. So it's a modified man coverage. If he gets the shallow cross that's under linebacker depth, he's going to zone off and look for the deeper cross coming from the opposite side. Fist technique tells us that our 2 safeties are going to play off of the tight end running back. Okay? So for our down safety here, which is our strong safety, our stud, he's going to have the out of 2, the swing of 3. Out of 2, swing of 3. So if 2 is out, that's all his. If 2 goes in or 2 goes vertical, he is now going to play the swing of 3. If he doesn't get either one, if he doesn't have a swing of 3, then he's just simply working under 1 to give help to the corner. Our free safety is playing a robber technique here. So we call it a fist, the F5 free safety inside. That's kind of the little game we play with the kids to make sure they're in an inside alignment. We want really a C stack alignment here with that free safety. We play them as tight as 8 yards sometimes, depending on down and distance. Our base teach rule for those free safeties in a fist is that they're going to play with their toes at 9. But it is a flat foot read concept with them. Okay, it's not a back pedal concept. It's going to be a flat foot read of 2. Helps them get in the run game a little bit faster. So for the free safety, his reads in a fist, if you see right here, if number 2 is vertical, he's going to play man-to-man. He's going to man-turn to it. He's going to maintain inside leverage. If 2 goes out, he is going to be a robber. So if 2 goes out, like we see in this diagram here, where we're getting curl flat, if 2 goes out, the free safety is going to work under the curl. So he becomes our curl defender with number 2 out. All right, he's under the curl. And if number 2 goes in, so if we get some sort of a shallow cross under linebacker depth by number 2, for every quarters technique we play with our safeties, if number 2 is in and shallow, we are going to turn and run to the post. We're going to sprint to the post and try to give help to something that's over the top. So those are the 3 reads for our free safety in a fist concept coverage-wise. Okay, so if we get curl flat, the corner's got all of 1. If he's playing off man, then he'll probably be on top of the curl, free safety under the curl, and our strong safety is going to take all of 2 to the flat, and then obviously would also carry the wheel if 2 went up the sidelines. Okay, our inside linebacker, which is probably going to be our Mike in this instance, he's simply going to be a wall 3 player. Okay, he's simply going to be a wall 3 player, really a hook dropper is what that's going to turn into. Okay, back here to the weak side, we get a 2 by to the weak side, but the number 2 receiver is detached. Okay, so we get a little bit different here. Okay, we get a detached number 2. Now, if the number 2 receiver is detached, and the width between 1 and 2 is a normal width to a tight width, okay, whatever that might be, and sometimes that changes by game plan, then our safety to the weak side, our weak safety is going to make a read call to that corner, okay? So our corner is then we are going to play a 2 read, a 2 trap, palms coverage to that side. So in that case, both corner and safety are going to key 2. Okay? So 2 is going to tell us everything that we need right there. The release of 2. For our corner, okay, for our corner, if 2 is out or in, okay, if 2 is out or in, he is going to snap his eyes to 1, and he is going to take all of 1 at that point. Okay, so it becomes a man match at that point. Now, to make it easy on our corner, sometimes you see with palms covered sometimes, or 2 read covers, sometimes you see different depths for number 2. Some people play it at 5 yards. I've seen it played as deep as 7. If 2 goes out as deep as 7, then we would bring the corner off. Again, as I said earlier, we want things to be really fast. We want to squeeze everything underneath. We want to make high school quarterbacks squeeze it into tight windows. We want to take their space away underneath and force the ball vertically down the field. So for our corners, they're looking strictly at the stem of 2. We give them 3 steps. That's all we give them. So the corner, if that number 2 receiver is not out within his first 3 steps off the stem of his release, we're snapping our eyes to 1, and I've got all of 1. Okay, I've got all of 1. All right, so that's how, so again, we squeeze it out very, very tight. Okay, but if we get fade flat, something along these lines, where it was an arrow or a speed out, something that's a rollover speed out by 2, more quick game related, then that corner is going to come off right now, and he's going to trap 2. For our safeties, in a read concept, for our safeties, their read is, if number 2 is vertical, and again, that's just 3 steps. If within his stem, if he's vertical, when that 4th step of the cleat hits the ground and he's still going vertical, that now becomes safety's man. Okay, he's got all of 2 at that point. So if number 2 is vertical, I'm going to carry him. It becomes man match at that point. Okay, if 2 goes out, like we see in this diagram, then he's going to run to 1. Again, we keep them kind of tight. For a read technique for our safeties, we play that at 9, which is a little bit on the tight side, and we do flat foot read that again. So again, we're squeezing everything tight. So what we tell that safety is that if number 2 is out right now, I'm going to open at a 45, and I am sprinting to the downfield hip of 1. Okay, so I'm sprinting to the hip of 1. So that's kind of the angle that we tell him to take. And again, we really want the ball to be thrown deep into the outside and force that thing to be dropped in a bucket, on the sidelines. So that's his read. So if 2 is out, he's over 1. If 2 goes in and is under the linebackers, under linebacker depth, then just like every safety in our quarters coverage, he is going to turn and sprint and try, because we're probably getting some sort of a post coming from the opposite side. So he's going to sprint and help the post. Our weak side inside linebacker. Underneath, he's away from the Ringo Lucky. He is what we call a slice dropper. So he's going to wall 2. He's going to wall 2 unless 2 is vertical. So if the number 2 receiver is vertical, he is going to slice through 2 and work out and expand under 1. Okay? Anything else, he is going to wall 2. Okay? So if 2 goes out, and let's say we get curl flat and 1 comes in, then 1 becomes the new number 2, and now he is going to set and wall the new number 2. Okay, so the slice portion of that, what we teach that guy, the slice portion of that just means that he's going to expand through the vertical of 2 and slice out underneath of 1. What that does is just helps us versus smash. So if we get smash, that 2 read corner can honey hole that, play the safety over the top, and rally the linebacker under to the hitch. Okay, so let's look at this. Again, it's another 2x2, okay, but the formation is flipped. In this case, on the last slide, we had 11 personnel with the back set to the tight end. In this instance, we still have 11 personnel, but now the back is set to the detached number 2. Now the attached 2 is going to be weak. So we would still have a Liz call. We would still set our front to the left here because of the offset back. That's our first priority with our linebackers and our defensive line. Our safeties are still going to make a lucky call because that running back is number 3. Okay, But now, unlike the last slide, number 2 is now detached. So we can play read also now between the free safety and the corner here to that side. And again, they're just going to, or palms coverage, whatever you want to call it, it's got a bunch of names, 2 trap. They are just going to read that release of 2 and match it after the stem. Now our stud, who in the last slide with an attached number 2, was outside of 2 and had first to the flat, he is now going to play in a what we call a bonus position for these guys. Okay, it's kind of the same thing the weak safety did to the 1-by, but now he's going to assume that alignment to the 2-by side. He is no longer a flat player. The only flat responsibility he would have would be the swing deep of 3 potentially if we got runoffs by 1 and 2. That would really be his only flat responsibility. He now is going to be primarily a curl dropper to the read side, to the detached number 2. So if number 2 is detached, we take the free safety out, and now our strong safety becomes the primary curl dropper instead of the free safety like he was in the robber. Okay, so if we were to get curl flat, let's say one runs in here and runs a curl, okay, the corner would come off and trap 2 to the flat. The free safety would be over top of the curl, and we would run our strong safety under the curl. Our inside linebacker to the Ringo Lucky, it's probably our Mike again, is going to be, again, a wall 3 player. Okay, now let's look over here to the weak side, away from the Ringo Lucky. We've got a Lucky call, so here to the right. In this instance, we have a situation where what if, we tell the safeties, what happens if the number 2 receiver and the number 1 receiver have a significant amount of width between them? Okay, so what if this ball, for instance, were on the left hash, the number 1 receiver was pretty far expanded to the field, and you had an attached number 2, something along those lines, okay? Again, we tell the safeties, if you make a read call, if you're going to play palms coverage, if you're going to play cover 2 essentially, if that number 2 is out within 3 steps, you have to get to 1. So our safeties, we give them the freedom to change this call. If this safety feels as though that number 1 receiver is too far for me to go, I can't, that's my job. If 2 goes out, I've got to get to 1. If that's a long way to go, then I can tell the corner solo. And this is really our third technique here to a 2-by. So we've got fist, we've got a read, and now we can also play a solo. And again, this is all called by the safeties. So if that safety thinks it's too far, he can look at the corner and say solo. Solo tells the corner that you now are in, again, that modified man technique. You have all of 1 unless 1's on a shallow cross underneath linebacker depth. Okay, you have the freedom to press. So our corners, if they hear anything other than read out of our 4-match coverage, they have got the freedom to press, and we highly encourage it. We love press coverage with our corners. So they have the freedom to do that in anything other than read when they're playing that cover 2 concept. All right. Now the way that solo changes our safety is this. Rather than now if 2 goes out, the corner trapping 2 and the safety working over 1, now the safety is going to have 2 vertical and he's going to have 2 to the flat. So he's now going to take 2 to the flat and he's going to take 2 vertical. If 2 goes in under linebacker depth, it's the same rule as always. You are going to open and sprint to the post and try to help something that's happening deep behind you. Okay, so what this is just kind of a catch-all for us in which if that safety thinks, man, that's a lot of width, I don't like the space that our cover 2 look would give us here at this case, we'll just man it and match it that way, and again, take that space away so that we're not given wide open windows with a whole lot of width. So that for us is a solo call. So, so really when you look at it with our corners, again, we try to give kids very little to do in terms of technique. Our corners spend the entire season really just doing 2 things. They practice man coverage and they practice cover 2. And we'll play several different types of man and we'll play a couple different types of cover 2. But really that's all they're doing is they're working cover 2 reads and they're working man coverage, and that's really all that we do with those guys all season long. So we give them very little to think about, and hopefully we can get pretty good at what we do. Okay, so if we look at a situation like this is a route concept that really we probably have to practice more than anything else because it has the most variables to this. Is here to the lucky side, we get a detached number 2, so we would probably check read here in this instance, and we get a snag concept. We get 1 on the mini curl, 2 on the corner, and 3 stretching us horizontally to the flat. So this one, if we got a concept like this out of our cover 2, the corner would probably initially squeeze here and then come off and sit in the honey hole. Our safety would be inside and over the corner. And now this would really stretch us horizontally. We really have to practice this one a lot. When we get that horizontal stretch by 3 right there, we've got to hold the curl and work to leverage that 3. And now number 1 becomes the new number 3 after the distribution. So we really have to work our mic to wall that new number 3. So that one takes a lot of practice. If we had a smash back here, same deal. We would honey hole this, work the safety over, and this would be where our slice concept would come in with our backer. Is now he would slice through the vertical of 2 and try to rally underneath that hitch on the smash route. The other big route concept that we really try to rep as much as possible, because I think you have to get good at it out of a quarters concept, is besides the snag concept, is also the NCAA or the shallow concept as well. So we spend a lot of time also repping this. And really where that comes in is more than anything else with those inside linebackers, is making sure that they kind of know how to distribute the shallow cross and then also the dig that's coming behind them in some way, shape, or form. So we would have a lucky call here to the 3 by side, again with the running back setting number 3, becoming number 3. So versus this concept, we'd make a fist call here with an attached number 2. So our corner has all of 1. Our strong safety, our stud, is going to take the out of 2 or the swing of 3, in this case swing of 3. With our free safety here, with 2 running a shallow, he is going to open and run to the post and hopefully help this corner out. Okay. For our inside linebacker, he's a wall 3 player, so as he opens, we're not going to chase anything under 5, pretty consistent with really any zone coverage, under 5 yards is that no cover zone. So if that number 2 receiver is shallow, he's going to make an in call to the backside linebacker, and then we are going to flip and find the deeper route. If there's somebody in front, there's somebody behind. So if number 2 is shallow, we're going to flip and find the dig coming from the opposite side. So here to the weak side, number 2 is detached. So we'd be playing our read concept, our cover 2 concept here. Again, with number 2 having a vertical stem beyond 3 steps, it's just simply going to turn into man match right here. So the corner would take all of 1. The safety now would be man match on 2. Okay, so he would go ahead and drive on that dig. And then our slice linebacker, once he gets that in call from the mic, is now going to come off the slice and match now that shallow cross coming to his side. So he essentially would drive and become the flat defender now on the shallow coming from the opposite side. So it's really important in that concept that our inside linebackers communicate to each other. And so that's a skill that we really work in drill work every week just to make sure that those 2 are playing off of each other when we get that shallow concept. One by. So this is our bonus, which we already talked about when we talked about setting the front. We can very simply play under 1, swing of 2 here, again to the 2 by. We can play solo, we can play read. If that number 2 were attached, we'd play fist. But we can play bonus here. Again, bonus tells that corner that you have essentially all of 1. You're playing mod man, all of 1 minus the shallow, and you have the freedom to press. So as we watch film clips here, you're going to see a lot of press coverage out of our corners. If I make a squat call, this actually is a sideline call, then we're simply going to play a hard cover 2 here and switch up that run fit and coverage between those 2. Nub formation, which we saw earlier. Weak safety, he's the force defender versus run. Now he's going to have, he's going to have the out of 1. So if tied into the flat right now threatens him, that's his. Or the swing of 2, and that corner is going to play our robber technique. Now, whenever we get a nub tied in, okay, a by 1 that's attached, for our corners, I'm going to show you a film clip here in just a second. Our corners, we teach them the same things as we teach our safeties in this instance. If this number 1 receiver, if this tight end is shallow, okay, or, and I think this is an important one because we see this a lot, or if we get max protection and get a high hat out of him. We tell our corners, or our safeties really, that if they're working off of an attached tight end, a high hat equals a shallow cross. So either one of those two stimulus, we are going to do the same thing that we would do if the tight end was shallow. We are going to turn and sprint to the post. A lot of times you'll get max protection and get post from the opposite side. So we teach that even with our corners out of that concept to a nub concept, to a nub side, is that a shallow or a high hat is going to trigger them to go help the post. Okay, so here's an instance where we're going to have a Liz call here with our front. So we're going to see the pressure here come from this linebacker, our Lou linebacker. It's a 2-back set, 21 personnel. So you see our linebackers in 30s right here. From a coverage standpoint, we have a Ringo. There's 2 as an attached tight end, so we have a Ringo call. So here is our stud, our strong safety. Here is our free safety. The call here between these 3 would be a fist. So the corner has all of 1, and these 2 are playing essentially off of really these 2, that fullback and tight end to the flat for the stud. Back here to the 1 by, we've made a bonus call, which tells this corner that he now has all of 1, and that is actually our weak safety right there that is squirreled down nice and tight. He's almost on the line of scrimmage, really is on the line of scrimmage. But again, with the ball on the hash, the horizontal width of 1 it necessitates really him doing that for run fit purposes. So if you see he's in there nice and tight, and our corner, due to horizontal leverage, is in outside leverage right now. He's all of 1, but he's playing outside leverage. So we get a post of 2, so 2 is vertical. Vertical for us is defined as being deeper than the linebackers. So right now that safety knows I've got all of 2. Both corners already have all of 1 due to the call, the fist and the bonus. The strong safety for us typically would be a flat dropper. I think he just sees quarterback's intentions here, so he starts chasing. Hopefully that's what happened. And we just wind up, I think that's a pretty good shot right there, of 3 verticals and 3 matches right there across the board. Okay, same coverage, but now instead of 21, we're now 20. All right, so number 2 is not attached, he's detached. They've changed their personnel grouping. So now we are playing read here to the detached 2, which is our 2 read. Our strong safety now, rather than being outside leverage, is going to move inside leverage, and he will be a curl dropper. These 2 are reading the release of 2. We have the same concept back here to the 1 by. He's going to make a bonus call. Our weak safety has made a bonus call and drop down into the box. And so now this corner has all of 1. Up top, we get a quick outside speed out. So we're getting slant flat with a speed out by 2. So if you remember, we give those guys 3 steps. He's rolling it over right now. So the corner should be breaking here. And now our free safety should be opening 45 and working to the hip of the vertical by 1. If 1 comes in, then he's going to stay over top of that. He's in good shape because we're working under right here. Drop the interception, but it's a pretty good look at how we're going to play that 2-trap concept right there. Okay, so 2x2 formation. 2x2 formation. We've set a Liz to the field here. It's 2x2. It's totally balanced. 2x2 pistol at this point. So we've set our front to the field. So we've made a Liz call. We're going to close the B gap off to the field. And we've made a lucky call to the field. So we're really going to try to, push everything back to the boundary in these instances of 2x2 pistol where everything's, totally balanced. So here's our strong safety with 2 being detached. Strong safety's inside. He's going to be a curl dropper. All right, looking at the width to the field of 1 and 2, the corner and the free safety have made a solo call. So now the corner has all of 1, and the free safety is going to have 2 vertical, 2 flat. Back here into the boundary, you can see the width being different between 1 and 2 into the boundary, obviously, versus 1 and 2 to the field. So they have made a read call, and we're playing our 2 read concept here to the boundary. So again, they're going to end here to the boundary. The weak safety and our corner are going to read the release of 2. We get bubble, and it's a quick break right there. I think it's important to teach in this instance also. I think it's always important to teach when you get something of this nature, who's the and go guy? Who's the guy that's going to have the bubble and go or what have you. So anytime if we check read, the and go guy is going to be the safety. So if we got stalk and go right here, pump the bubble and throw the vertical, then that safety would be the and go guy. If we were in solo like we are up here, then the and go guy on bubble and go would be the corner because that's his man. Here's a pretty good look at solo. 2 by side is left here, so it's a 2x1, so we've made a lucky call. So this is one in which the front and the coverage are working independently of one another. We've made a rip call with our linebackers. So we're going to set the front here to our right, close off the B gap here. This is our strong safety who's going to have the curl. Free safety and corner have made a solo call, so now the safety is taking 2 to the flat and 2 vertical. Corner has all of 1. Bonus here to the 1 by. So we've taken our weak safety, squirreled him down. He's made a bonus call to that corner, and now the corner has the freedom to press. He's got all of 1. So now rather than playing 2 read, now that outside release of 2 is going to be the corners. And again, that's just simply done due to width. And this is an instance where the ball's complete. It's really a tremendous tackle here. Near knee heads to the inside. It's everything you want right there. Roll with it. I like to see him roll with that tackle. But even it's a complete ball, and it's a difficult catch, and really it's a gain of 2 right there. After we get the shifts here, this is a good shot of what we want our kids to do if that tight end were to shallow cross or to high hat and they've left him into max protect. So we get a shift and a motion, and we wind up here with a nub formation right here. So we get an attached number 1 tight end. So here's our weak safety, and here now is our corner. And again, that corner is going to have a vertical of that tight end. If the tight end goes out, he's going to go to the safety. If that tight end is shallow or high hats, we want that kid, whether it be a corner or a safety, we want him to sprint to the post. It's a pretty good shot right there. Max protection, high hat by the tight end. Corner sees it. He's going to sprint to the post. Winds up breaking up the ball. That was a critical point in the state championship game from a year ago. Okay, so 3 by coverages. As I said earlier, we always X out somebody. So our 3 by coverages in our quarters concept, we're always going to turn them into 2-bys. Okay, so that read, fist, solo concept that we talked about earlier, we're still going to hold true with those in our 3-bys. We're just going to take one of the 3 receivers out of the count. So our first call, if it's a 3-by-1 with the running back set away, running back is set weak, is we are going to, if the distribution between 1, 2, and 3, the width between 1, 2, and 3 is relatively consistent, is relatively normal. Our first install, what we teach first to the kids, is special. Okay, that's our tag for this 3-by. And special for us says that we are going to always press 1, and he is going to play, instead of a mod man, he's going to play what we call a meg man, man everywhere he goes. He's got him no matter where he goes. Okay, so that number 1 receiver is now out of the count. We have eliminated him. He belongs to the corner. Okay, for everybody else, it's really going to stay fairly the same. So now our outside safety, which is our stud, and our free safety here, are now these 2 safeties are going to play our 2 read concept, but rather than play it off of number 2, they're going to play it off of number 3. So remember, if we eliminate that receiver, this is now 1, and as far as we're concerned, this is now number 2. So our 2 safeties now are going to play that cover 2 read off of 3. And it's the same rules, the exact same rules apply as applied to a 2-by. We're going to take the out cut, the outside safety is going to take the out of 2, assuming that his out cut happens within the first 3 steps of his stem. If he's vertical or he's in, he's going to snap his eyes and he's going to have all of 2. If he's vertical, he's got all of 3, the free safety does. If he's out, we're going to work over top of 2, just like we would in read. And if number 3 is shallow, then the safety is going to turn and run to the post. So really what we've done is our 3-by-1 adjustment is there really is no adjustment. We just take one guy out of the count and play the same coverage concepts that we have played before. We still have a slice linebacker, and we still now the Mike linebacker really for us is going to be a hook player really more than anything else. We would still play 1-by here, squirrel that weak safety down, and allow that corner the freedom to press. It's a pretty good shot here of us in special. This is actually one where the ball gets completed on us, but it's pretty good execution from the secondary standpoint. We don't get underneath of the skinny post from the linebacker. So the back is set into the boundary. The back is set to the right. So we're making a rip call with our front. So our Rob linebacker is going to set the front here and either close off. We're either going to close off the B with him or with him and that defensive end. We've made a bonus to the 1-by side. Corners in a press. Weak safety has walked down into the front. We've made a special call here to the trip side, and so we're in a press on 1, and we're playing our 2 read off of number 3 now. So notice 3 goes out, 3 bubbles. So we're going to come off and play the flat route of 3. The inside safety now is going to turn and get on top of 2. So pretty good job by him. He's got the and go. And now our slice linebacker really has got to work now to wall the new 3. And he just runs by it a little bit right there. So good throw. But you can kind of see how the coverage is executed with that look right there. Same sort of concept here. They speed exit, motion out, so it winds up being actually a quads sort of concept. But very simply now, anytime we get speed motion out of the backfield, we rep this. That speed motion becomes the new number 2. We never bring that corner off of his press. That's too difficult. So that speed motion becomes the new number 2. This now becomes the new number 3, and we are simply going to man match that 4. So when we get some sort of a quads look like that, rather than take one person out of the count, we're going to take 2 of them out, especially if it happens in a fast quick fashion like this. Okay, so now we get a 3-by-1 running back is set away, but now that tight end is an attached number 3. Okay, so it's 11 personnel concept here. Rather than play special, again, we're going to eliminate one of those 3. So now we're going to eliminate the tight end. All right, we're going to play mod coverage with the safety. The inside safety is now going to take 3, so now number 3 is eliminated. And the reason why we're going to do that is because probably the width between 1 and 2 is now a tighter width than the width between 2 and 3. If the width between 2 and 3 were tighter, we could still play special. But if 1 and 2 are tighter aligned than 2 and 3 are, we'll simply X out number 3 here with the safety, and we'll play our 2 read, 2 trap concept there off of number 2. And we would call this read solo. So again, the safeties are making this call. Safeties are making this call themselves. Again, the personnel's different. It's not 10 anymore. It's now 11. We would be in a bonus here. It'd still be the same exact concept. Now, let's set the running back strong. Running back set strong, for us, we consider that to be a 4-by now. We consider that really to be more of an unbalanced concept. So wherever the running back's alignment is, it really changes how we need to leverage our front. So when our running back sets strong, and now that creates a number 4 to the passing strength. We are going to make, the call that we make is Mabel. M-A-B-L-E. And so a Mabel call for us is going to take the mic, much like we did with the unbalanced. It's like we said, 4-by for us and unbalanced are the same concept. So we've taken the unbalanced front that we looked at earlier, and we've kind of created this same concept in teaching with our kids. So our Mike linebacker is going to walk out of the box, and now he's going to be that outside leverage player. So if we got speed option, the toss or something like that, that's out of the offset, something along those lines, our Mike linebacker would be the force defender versus run, and he is now going to be a slice out of 3, swing of 4 player to the 4-by side. And again, based on where the width is of 1, 2, and 3, we could either play special, press 1 and take him out, or play, in this case, it would be a read fist concept because we have the outside, we have the linebacker in outside leverage. So there's a shot of that. So here's an instance where we have a 4-by, back is set strong. So the front is set rip. So there's our Rob linebacker. We're going to cancel the B gap out to the right. We've made a Ringo call. Obviously the coverage is to the right for us. Okay. I think our free safety here has made a solo call to the corner. So the corner's got all of 1, freedom to press. Safety is going to take vertical of 2 out of 2. Again, that's based on width. And number 3, we've Mabeled, brought the mic out. And now that strong safety, or that inside third safety, whoever you put there, could be the free safety, is going to take the vertical of 3. And if 3 goes shallow here, he's going to run to the post. So we get hitch and go here. Good job on the double move. Bang it, try to get him off his stem, and we get an overthrow. And again, that's a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 concept where we're trying to, we want the ball thrown over our head, quite honestly. We want it to be more of a lower percentage throw. We're off the field here. So pretty good shot of how we would handle this at linebacker. We Mabel that linebacker. Now essentially he becomes a flat dropper, is really what it amounts to, a curl dropper. What we would really like to see better here is with max protection here from that number 3, is see him turn and sprint to the post. Same sort of concept. We've got a Liz and a Lucky. Back is set left, offset back left. We've got a Liz call. Pressure's coming from our left. We're going to close the B gap off to the left. We've got a lucky call. So where the safeties are going to go left, our strong safety and our free safety. Again, I think it's the same concept where he has made a solo call to that corner. So he's got all of one. He's going to take up and out by 2. This linebacker is going to be a slide stropper. That's our Mike and our Mabel concept, just to make sure. And again, he's there just to make sure that we don't get out leveraged. That's what we don't want to happen here, is we don't want to get out leveraged. And this safety is going to take the vertical of 3. We get all verts. Max protect by 3. So again, I'd like to see him turn and sprint to the post. Don't get a post here. We get a really, really, really long incompletion. Good ball. Good ball. Maybe should have been caught. But again, you're talking about my goodness, that's a 50-yard throw on 1st and 10 that has to be dropped in a very, very, very small window. And it's a long foul ball. Okay, so now I'm going to go into how we tie in our run fits into our quarters coverage. We spin our safeties, rotate our safeties to our Ringo Lucky. We make fist, read, solo, or bonus calls with the back end of the coverage. And I'm going to put all that together now with the linebacker fits and show you how all that fits together and how we teach our run fits. So let's say that we are running a bullet, which again is our basic B gap, close the over front concept. We're going to close the B gap off to the tight end side. All right, with our inside linebackers who we're going to play in 30s, though we're going to teach them, they are either going to be vice or hang players, okay? Now, the way we do this is this. Since we bump rip Liz, our Mike linebacker is always 99.9% of the time, almost always, going to be to the open A gap. So we try to train those backers to where they're always playing in front of a certain open gap. So our Mike linebacker is almost exclusively going to be to the open A. So he is going to be what we call a hang player, a hang defender. Now what that means for us is this. That means that if we get A gap ISO, okay, so the hang concept is going to determine what that Mike is going to do if he gets run right at him through his open gap or if he gets run away. So the hang tells the Mike, if I get run at me through my open A, I am a force player. I'm going to force the ball back to my help, to my other 30 linebacker. If I get flow away from me, if I'm the hang defender and I get flow away from me, I'm going to tempo that open A and stay behind the ball. So I'm essentially playing the cutback through that open A, always tempoing the football and not getting too fast over the top if I'm the hang defender. And again, that's always going to be the linebacker for us that's to the open A gap, okay, to the side we're closing the B gap off, our rip Liz side. And it's almost always our Mike linebacker. For our Rob or our Lou, who is not the pressure backer, you're going to be a vice player. Okay, so now what that says is that I'm to the open B. Our vice players, if they get run at them through that B gap, they're going to be spill defenders. They're going to spill it to the down safety. We will always have a down safety to that open B, and they're going to spill the ball to the open B. If they get flow away from them, our vice linebacker is going to be a fast A gap run through on the opposite side. Our down safety is going to be what we call a cap player, okay? So that cap player says that if he gets run to that open B to his side, he's going to stack that defensive end essentially, play the outside half of the B, tempo the ball if the ball bounces over the top and the end gets caught inside. We want him to stay square. The cap player also is going to say that if you get outside run or fast flow to your side, you're going to cap it off. You're going to stay outside of everything, which means that if we get counter or anything of that sort, you're going to be outside that block. And I'll show you more of that here in just a second. Now the cork concept. Cork really only applies for us. We talk about all our inside linebackers being cork players. And that really applies if flow is to my side and perimeter. All right, and we define perimeter run as anything C-gapping out. So if the ball is going over the top, C-gapping out, then all our inside linebackers, whether you're the hang or the vice, you're a cork linebacker, which says that you're going to be inside the load coming around, usually a puller. So the way that this would work here, if we get ISO strong through the A, our Mike's the hang, so he gets his open A in front of him, the Red Sea parts. He's going to fit outside the ISO and force it back. Our Rob is a vice player, so he's getting flow away, and he is going to be the A-gap run through. He's going to play fast through that A-gap, and he's going to play inside that fullback lead. So we really get, one inside, one outside on the A-gap ISO right there. The weak safety is getting flow away, so he's simply going to fold and stay square right there in that B-gap and play the drastic cut back through the B. I think one thing that's important for those guys, that's really, really important, is we tell them tempo the B. In other words, we tell all our players, and hopefully all our players learn this, we do not run flat or backwards ever. If I'm an in-the-box defender, I never run flat or backwards until the ball is even with me. So as long as I am still on top of the ball's under me, then I'm always going to attack at my hip leverage, whatever that is. I'm going to attack my hip leverage. I'm never going to go flat so we don't give up the cut. And in the case of the weak safety here, we want to make sure he doesn't cross his feet over and get caught on boot or something along those lines. Now, if we get a weak side ISO, same call, same bullet, so we're going to be in an over front and close that B gap off. And we get a weak side ice through that open B. Okay? Again, the Mike is always to the open A for us. He's the hang defender, and he is going to tempo that A gap. Don't get too fast. If that ball cuts back through that A, we want to stay nice and square right there. We always want to stay behind the ball. Our Rob here, since we would have a Liz call, our Rob is a vice player. And so for the vice player, if you get isolation through your open B, you are going to attack it and spill it and play through the inside half of that lead block and spill it to the down safety. The down safety is the cap, so he gets flow at him. He would really step and stack right there behind that end and play the outside half of the B or the bounce to the C. I think something that's really important, you have to allow those guys to have a hard job, and you really have to allow them the freedom sometimes to get a little bit nosy. You want them to be physical. We like to play those guys in run situations and really thick alignments, and sometimes they get a little caught inside, and that cap defender has to be able to play the outside half of the B, but also work over the top and stay square right there. So here's a pretty good shot here. So if you look, kind of put the whole thing together, we've started in a Liz call, there's our Lou, a Mabel, and a 3x1. So that's actually our Mike linebacker right there. If we get pistol for us equals back strong. Pistol for us equals back strong because, again, we want to make sure he's lined up there, because if they snap the ball and run some sort of outside stretch right there, we want to make sure that we have a leverage player to force it back inside. We've got a 9, okay? But here they're going to bring the H-back back into the box, and it turns into a 2-back set. So back to a 2-back set. We're going to leave that Liz call on, so we're going to close off this B. That's our strong safety now. He's going to walk down to that bonus position. Here's our weak safety to the 1-by that's going to be in a bonus position. So really we look like a 4-4 here. Here's our 230 linebackers. Weak side ISO through the B. All right, so our Rob linebacker is our vice player. He's going to play through the inside half of that block. Our Mike is going to tempo and hang and play the cut to the A. He'll play over the top once the ball commits outside that B. And then here's our weak safety that is going to stack and cap right here behind our defensive end and play the outside half of the B, staying square to over the top. It's a pretty good shot right here. So you can see we've closed off that B. Here's our open A, here's our open B. Our defensive end gets nosy and peeks inside. Ball bounces over the top. And there's our weak safety, who's the cat player. He made a bonus call to the corner, so he squirreled down. And he's going to play the bounce there and help the defensive end. Okay, power play. Power play is going to be a little bit different. We're not getting A and B gap isolation now. Now we're getting perimeter run. So when we get the power play, that's going to be perimeter run for us. Now that cork concept is going to come into play. So if I'm the Mike right here, and we're also going to bring the safeties really more into the run fits now. If I'm the Mike to the open A, if we get power strong, we've closed off this B gap. So I get any kind of action from that running back, we usually key tailback, that is taking me outside this A. I'm going to play over the top, and I am going to be a cork defender. What that says is that any block that shows up next, a load, a backside guard that's pulling, anything of that nature, I am fitting inside the load. Okay, so I'm going to spill the load. I'm going to cork the puller. We talk about corking the puller. I'm going to cork it. So we talk about capping it off, staying outside, and corking it, staying inside. Okay? For our down safety, our strong safety here, he's always going to be a force defender. So he's going to take it on with the inside, turn it back in. That's kind of standard stuff. Our free safety with a detached two, with an attached two, excuse me. We've got a tight end that's attached. If that tight end is down, if he blocks, okay, so now we're out of the pass reads. Now we're going to get a run read from him. He's going to block. He can either turn out or block down. Okay, so if he gets a block read from that tight end, he is going to immediately come down his stem and stay outside. He is now the cap player, and that says that he's going to be outside the load, outside the puller, however you want to term it. So when we get power, if we get a wide power with the tight end blocking down, our strong safety is going to force and turn it back in. Our free safety is going to be down his stem and stay outside that puller right there. Our Mike is working over the top, and he is going to cork and stay inside the puller. Okay, so really what we're doing is now putting one inside and one outside that pull. Our Rob linebacker on power strong, again, he's the vice player. So he gets any kind of wiggle of the back strong away from him. He can play fast and be that A-gap run through. Weak safety is made a bonus call. He's down in the fit, flows away. He's going to fold, stay square, tempo that B-gap, make sure we're not going flat or backwards until the ball is even with us. So here's what this will look like. All right, so here's our Mike linebacker. All right, now in this case, we're actually in our even front, which is the same. We go from our odd front to our even front. The run fits don't change. That's kind of, I think, one of the good things about it. All we've done is taken one of our three linebackers, and the kid was talented enough, flexible enough to where we could play him some as a 7 technique, so we could go interchangeably odd to even at times. But here's our strong safety. Here's our free safety. They've made a fist call off of the tight end. Here's our Mike. Here's our Lou linebacker. This is our defensive end. He's in a stand-up. This was a triple option team. Here's our weak safety. So we get power strong. We're going to spill that right there. Primary C-gap players for us always spill. They're spill dive players versus the option. Mike is going to work over the top, and he is going to cork. So that puller right there, he's going to stay inside of that puller. Our free safety gets a turnout, so he's now going to be down his stem. He's a cap player. So from this point forward, our free safety is going to stay outside of any block that might materialize right there, which more than likely would be this puller. That's why we want to spill this. We want to try to get, the puller never gets around. But if that puller were to get around right there, the free safety is going to stay outside, and the Mike is going to stay inside. Backside linebacker is a vice to the open B. He can just play fast. So we really want to spill that. We want to spill the kick. If it's a 5 technique, now if that tight end blocked down, we'd be forcing it here. But if we kick out the 5, we want to spill the kick out, and we want to spill that puller with the cork player. Split zone. We fit the same. We fit split zone the same as we do power. So even though we're going to get split zone on this play, we are going to anytime we get the Y off concept with the H back in the box, we make a tag call. So all 4 of these guys, we've got 2 safeties here, and our 2 inside linebackers. All 4 of their sets of eyes are going to be on that H back. We call it the tag back. And we're going to fit with that H. So he goes away and we get the split zone. We want to spill this. We want to fit over the top and inside. So if this guy arcs, if we get the zone arc, which we see a lot, we're going to fit inside of that, and he's going to fit outside. B gap, A gap, run through. So we gap everything out. I'll show you the end zone shot here. So our tag back, our H is coming back here, so we're going to fit with him. So we'll reverse fit this. We would spill and take dive versus the option. Mike will be the cork. So he's going to, if this guy were to fake and come around here and arc, Mike would cork and fit inside him. The cap player would fit outside him. Again, our vice player is going to play fast. He's getting flow away with the H going away. Vice player is going to play fast through that A, and the weak safety is going to play in that B. Power weak, really, it's the same concepts. We would just be spilling the kick. Since it's going to, to the open inside, we would be spilling that. The weak safety would still be the cap. The vice player would still play over the top and cork that puller since he's getting flow perimeter, and the mic is still going to hang behind. So really, it doesn't change anything. Now, the way this manifests itself with option responsibilities, we also try to teach option responsibilities in with this. For us, cap players, our weak safety, when he's in a bonus, he's going to be a pitch player. If you're a cork linebacker for us, you're a quarterback player. Any primary C-gap player, so that could be our defensive end or our lure rob linebacker if we're running that crush pressure that brings them off that C-gap edge. If you're a primary C-gap defender, you are a dive player for us versus triple option. If we're in a fist like we are right here and we got option strong, we would be pitch and quarterback 2 pitch right there. So here we're actually running a brave stunt for us. So this is putting us in an underfront. It's going to bring our Lou linebacker right here through the B. Defensive end is going to close and take dive. Cap safety, our bonus safety, is going to take pitch. Our Mike is the cork, and he is going to flow over the top and be the quarterback player. So our cork and cap concepts on the perimeter, we teach our option responsibilities in with those as well. So that's how we fit. That's how we fit the 2-back run game. That's how we play our cover 4 match, and hopefully it all kind of makes sense, and you see where all the pieces fit in together with each other. Again, the biggest thing we try to do with our kids at Roncalli is make sure that we're keeping things consistent with the teaching, allowing them to play fast, and just making sure that we get lined up and don't give them too much to think about. We're blessed with intelligent kids, and we found a system that really works for us. And I hope it was somewhat of a help to you as well. Thanks.